not understanding I'm not fully comprehending what they're kind of trying to put down to me, because it's so authoritarian. It is so almost tyrannical with the way they're going about it, and they're so emotionally reactive. I'm wondering why, why are you being so reactive and such a cunt? And I hate to use that word, but they were really just that, not just dismissive for no reason, because here I am just trying to understand. I have genuine intent. I'm trying to understand what you're trying to say to me. And so anything that I'm saying to you that I think I believe, shouldn't be so offensive, and you shouldn't be so allergic to it. And I think I asked about something certain, and I'm still stuck on like how this current system's being run by the British Empire, by a British Empire that doesn't seem to be dead. And I asked a question, I can't remember exactly what it was, and they just said, "Oh, just stick to your obsession with the royal family, or with the British royal family, the monarchy. Stick to your obsession and enjoy the lead vaccines, or the lead filled vaccines." Obviously, because I'm Australian and they know what happened to Australia. And I just thought, like, okay, firstly, that's just really like such a personal attack, but so cruel and psychopathic. And I'm wondering, even then, why have you said that to me? Like, why have you been so cruel for, like, and like, you know me, like you are trying to get to me and you're trying to get under my skin. And at that time, I actually probably didn't think like that. Maybe I did think like that, but it was all like, also I was overwhelmed by fear by what they had said to me, because of everything I was being fed at the time, that I was actually physically sick for, I think, 2 days, because they had made me so freaked out with what they had said to me. It was almost like a death wish, or a death wish of my family and my friends. And it really just freaked me the hell out. Just that apathy at the time, where I kind of needed to be comforted and protected and secured. I was not in a really good state, because I was believing this whole COVID psyop and everything that they were feeding to us at the time. And also that there's going to be an apocalypse. I was believing all these truth accounts. There's an American guy, I think, living in Mexico or Hawaii, that I was following, and it was all about Bitcoin. And there was the other woman from Israel that I was believing too. There were all these different personalities and all these different accounts that were pro-freedom, pro-independence. As soon enough, you ask yourself the question, how have you, of all people, just survived this whole Palestine-Israel war? How are you now traveling the world doing tours and speaking in like a very quiet room? Who are you? Really, who are you, and what are you doing, really? How genuine are you? But it took a while for me to get there. And then I knew there was something off about this account. And only recently, I actually did one of the videos on YouTube that I've got here. It was to this researcher community. I actually thanked and credited this researcher for what they've taught me and what they know, what I'm still believing to be true. And also a very close account to them, that I still use their work, and I still find it interesting and relevant, some of it, to this day. And I still read their work and see if it's valid and so forth. But I credited these two accounts, and then I put the video onto my Twitter and attached their handles, and I did a whole kind of like blurb thanking all these people. And these two accounts, including that one that was really, really nasty, decided to remove their handles from my post. And that actually triggered somebody else that was a genuine account, researcher account, there, and was like, what? Like, how are these two accounts? You're just genuinely thanking them for their help. Why would they be removing their handles? And it got me thinking, and I was just like, this isn't genuine. This isn't natural. These accounts aren't natural. Whatever they're doing, and these are the two major accounts of this research and these ideas, and really pushing this forward. And one's focusing more on this great black nobility system and these families and how they rule supposedly, and not really ever properly explaining it. And then the other one, and that's the one that's really aggressive and nasty. And then there's another one that's a lot more just like, oh, don't believe this account because they use what was it? They use ChatGPT to help them word their, or they use ChatGPT for their posts. They're a lot more passive. They're a lot more all about research and legitimate research to prove that they are on the right path of theory. And I realized, okay, now I really need to question this Rome theory, because I'm feeling like this isn't genuine. If they're so afraid of an account that has gone after the royal family, and they think that is what's so inappropriate or so wrong, that they're going to remove their handles together as a collective, like I'm some like plague. It was just insane to me. So, sorry, I got a frog in my throat. So that was when I started to question Rome and the history of these empires, and the falling of Roman Empire, and the creation of the Holy Roman Empire, and then what's happened, how it transitioned to Britain. And I wanted to find that all out. And now that I've found that all out, I can understand that these accounts, even though they may have genuine information and history, it's selective, it's half-truths, it's using history to create a theory. And I didn't understand that at the time, and I didn't understand that form of censorship. So there's different ways of how things have been censored. So moving on from that, I can go back to the Megxit community and talk about how, as I've said many, many times, when certain accounts would give deceptive content, I would react, repost, and it was to also just make a stance against something that was not truthful, or that should be questioned by anyone, culturally, socially, and critiqued and openly discussed. If they were right, they could provide an answer or an explanation. I'd correct myself and I'd apologize. I've done that before with my own work. So I believed a certain controlled opposition account with King Charles having a heart operation, and they were talking about his fingers or hands, and I believed that, and then I reverberated that. It wasn't my primary, my primary source was this account that I believed to be true, that was meant to be, believe it or not, a royal family member, Australian, who couldn't spell. And they were talking about clones. They were talking about all this crazy, nasty shit. And I believe that point where when Charles went missing, there was no cancer. They were saying there was no cancer. That's laughable. They were talking that he was having a heart transplant or an operation. That's why he had that, his sausage fingers and so forth. And I reverberated that. And then somebody said, that's completely incorrect. And I took it down. And when I take it down, then that's another way of censoring or controlling the narrative that I'm completely incorrect with everything I do, that I shouldn't be believed, that I shouldn't be followed. There's also a way of using that to cancel my channel. It's like, well, hey, remember when you took down that post because I was right and you don't do your research? There's certain things where it became really, really aggressive with the harassment and the censorship, enough to validate everyone's opinions, because sometimes it just got to that people were validating their opinions and then attacking me. I've had ways, of course, people saying I was a cyber terrorist, that I was lying about Californian law, or that the US government was involved, that how would I know, I'm just a stupid Australian, that they were doing the craziest stuff. And now I understand that as completely just moderator accounts, and they were creating this stuff and to make it look like this was a real issue. And then a lot of the time when I would ask for certain content, I would question content, for example, with the royal grift, I would get no answers. So I actually never had any communications, even after she used my work. I didn't have any communications with the royal grift, even though I was including her handles. I was trying to get her and the Duchess of Narcissex and a number of accounts to create like a Five Eyes kind of network, a group where we would chat all together about these things that were happening in our own countries, and how it relates to Harry and Meghan, and then we can come together and talk about it. For example, the political interference in Australia versus what's happening in America, and lead it back to globalism, because that's what I thought, genuinely, that's what I thought they were trying to prove. And I didn't get any communications from her, except for a few defensive posts or responses. Nothing to do with the questioning of her work. It was just more of a personal defense. Then the Psyop happened with Paula M, and tactics were changed in regards to how I was attacked. Alcoholic, nut job. I mean, I was called that a few times prior to that, but it wasn't so aggressive. It wasn't so bad. I can also say as well that when I outed the political interference in October 2023 it wasn't even the Crown at that point. I was asking the Crown, I was asking King Charles to respond and to actually do something, because if you don't, that you're complicit in this foreign interference, right? And it is treason. Well, it's already treason. Harry, supposedly, if he's a part of Archwell, has committed treason against the Crown, England, UK Parliament, and the Commonwealth by interfering in Australian government and politics and our policy. And when I disclosed that, I think I sent that to a lot of YouTube accounts too. And there's an Australian one she's not Australian, she's an American military attorney, or supposedly an American military lawyer, or a former one. And then she went out of her way to not address me, not speak to me ever. I've never spoken to her. I have contacted her on a number of occasions directly, and she did a video basically saying that what Harry had done with this report was not treason. And I was like, okay, so this is how we're playing. So that was another form of censorship. No one would actually address anything, and these people were still genuine to everyone else's eyes, but that they were censoring my content only. So that's another one to point out. And with TRG, there seem to be moderator accounts attached to her account, like Our Recollections May Vary and Duchess of Narcissus. And they kind of justified that with being friends, supposedly, but it just didn't seem, the way it was operating didn't seem that way. And they were then attacking me, going after me, or, I mean, at least Duchess of Narcissus would have these conversations with me. I appreciated that. I kept it respectful until in January this year, when they decided to call me a troll and a stalker and obsessed with the royal grift. It was mostly because what was happening with the royal grift was there's this build-up of this narrative that was false, that initially, foundationally, I had asked for proof of, and then she just carried on and continued from there. She ignored me asking these questions, and she carried on with this narrative like almost she was, wasn't almost, like she was instructed to do. And it was very obvious, her saying that China was the deep state, her saying certain things. I was like, what the fuck? Her blaming Mayorkas for Harry coming to, or being in charge of the visa issue of Harry, when Harry was issued a visa to begin with and his application was successful and submitted during the Trump first presidency. And all of a sudden, that didn't matter. That was not at all. The person in charge at that time, that wasn't Mayorkas, wasn't named, wasn't outed. And there were just all these things that were happening. Plus, I was getting attacked by Our Recollections May Vary, like a rat. She just was constantly coming at me because I was questioning the Royal Grift's content. And initially it was very diplomatic, and it became more and more, for me, I was frustrated, and I was saying, you are acting like a shill account. You seem to be a shill account. What the fuck is going on? Right? And then there was this whole, which I didn't know at that point, Our Recollections May Vary was smearing me, and that was why I was getting also aggressively attacked from then on, online, on my YouTube, on Twitter. And there were other accounts that were attacking me, that were saying I was a nut job, an alcoholic, that I needed to be institutionalized. There were people saying, don't follow this account, it's very suspicious, she's anti-monarchy. All of these made-up accounts that were needing to censor me out at this point, and were using the whole Paula M. Psyop to do that. So that's another way that it's been worked. It's been very, very aggressive up until, I'd say, March, when they would just censored my Twitter account altogether. And now what's happening, because they're not denying and they cannot deny what I'm saying is true, this is the new tactics. They can't deny so there are a lot of people who have tried to, let's say February, March, January, I was being personally attacked constantly on here by certain commentators that were meant to be following me, that didn't make sense as to why they were still following me and making these comments. That still happens today, right? Why would you be following me if you don't watch any of my videos? How can you say that you don't watch my videos and they're all shit because I say and and it's just drivel and it's nonsensical and I need to be medicated and I'm a Looney Tune? How can you say all these things but still be talking about me? Why am I relevant? I'm not relevant, so why would you keep talking about me? It's obviously to censor me and so forth. Why would you be directly talking to me about that or harassing me? And it was all still like this collective validation. So they only cared about how people would react and like they would get a number of accounts to like the comment on Twitter, or to like it and to be collectively validated. What they were trying to do was they were trying to manipulate the public perception of my channel and of my work. And it did work. It worked quite well, you know. And then there was it was a lot more personal. People laughing, people saying, it got to the point where people literally said to me, I'm going to steal your content and there's nothing you can do about it. And they didn't say it because I was censored, but they said, you've lost your credibility. Like, you've lost your leverage. You've lost your influence in this community. And almost like we've decided that we've lost your influence. So it's legitimate for me to use your work and to completely say that you're incorrect, or that your claims are weak, or your proof is weak, because that was another one. They would always come back to my proof being weak or reaching, which isn't true, because it's fucking proof. Like, there's so much proof, and yet that wasn't proof enough. It wasn't enough, and so forth as well. Just a joke, because I have had no one from the Mexican community actually giving proof, other than the bloody obvious of photoshops and the like. But there's no real theory behind it. There's nothing really real about it. Anyway, and then you have now, because ever since I've been censored, they don't necessarily need to be so aggressive. And they've been told to take a step back because I was threatening defamation, a defamation court case. And I was actually gathering evidence for that with our recollections may vary, Megan's Mole, and the Royal Grift. And because of what they were saying and what they were lying about, the smearing was so strong, but also so personal, that it was really hard to deal with. But that I collected all this information. That stopped when I just said, firstly, I didn't give into that new Psyop that was happening regarding our recollections may vary and doing a live with Tom Markle. That didn't happen. And I threatened them with actual legal action. And then it became passive with their commentary. Obviously it's still blocked, and yet by our recollections may vary. So she would just go off on her own little rants, or all this stuff. And because they were not our recollections, she's not big, but anything that would be under the Royal Grift, someone would say something like, I was going after Trump, I was going after American democracy, American government, stuff like that, and then it would be agreed upon, or it would be allowed. And there's certain, a part of censorship is also about this collective, like, allowance of certain commentary. For example, I don't allow, if it's untrue and it's abusive and personal, I don't necessarily encourage or allow or enable any account on here, I don't care who you are, to abuse others, because we're talking about content here. I don't know if they're real or not, but if you want to go down that path, then it also makes me look like a hypocrite, and it also makes me look like I could be controlled opposition or falsely advertise and falsely represent myself. So that's a big no-no for me. Those are my own rules. When an account allows these sorts of discussions and open commentary about an account being, say, a paid account and paid subs and mentally unstable and alcoholic and conducting death threats, that's quite, that's enough to show me what their intent is, that they allow this sort of environment where they're attacking others. But if you attack Paula M over one video, oh, no, you don't do that. No, girl. That changes the whole cultural norms and rules. But and they can post about somebody else stealing and copying their content, but they'll steal your content literally, and you'll say something and you're ignored. It's really there's a lot of mind games involved with this censorship as well. It's not always direct, and it's not always in front of you. And it's now moving towards what you see now is this kind of constructive criticism, because they can't deny what I'm giving out. If you've noticed, all of my videos, I don't have a disclaimer. Now, I thought about it, obviously, to legally protect myself, but I'm also not monetized. I'm not a fraud account, and they know I'm an authentic identity. They know that. They're very aware of that. I'm not monetized, so you can't say that money is backing me, and that's my motive. I have a genuine motive for trying to expose things. If I'm incorrect, you can contact me or communicate with me. I can take the post down. I can apologize. I'm more than happy to do that because I'm a big girl. But you haven't, and I don't put the disclaimer there because I want to ensure you that I have nothing to hide. I don't go, well, this is just my opinion. There are certain things I say supposedly or allegedly or in my opinion, and that's only because I'm scared for my safety, or I'm scared for what someone may have told me or what I've read could be untrue. I'm not saying I'm trying to deceive you. I'm saying, like, for example, if that lawyer account that I've discussed is completely created and fabricated, and therefore if what they've told me about those crimes were fabricated and tried to be used against me, so then I would discuss it publicly and then I could have a lawsuit against me, or it would silence me forever, then I can't say it's the truth, and I can't say it's a full and factual and correct statement. I believed it at the time. That's all I know. And I believe that person at the time as a genuine person and account. So, but when I speak about it, I'm talking about the contradiction of how they present themselves, the justice that they serve, supposedly working for the Department of Justice, working for Elon Musk and for Trump, and yet you've allowed what you've told me, you've allowed very, very serious crimes to take place, and you're not calling that justice. You're calling something a lot more shallow, a lot more petty, like SS bots and supposed censorship. You're calling that the biggest crime that you're going to work your career at this present time over. I find that contradiction. That's exactly what I'm saying. But I don't use a disclaimer because I didn't want to say legally I'm covered for deceiving you. I'm covered for manipulating you by putting up that disclaimer. If I'm wrong, if I'm incorrect, if I'm defensive about that, by the way, it's simply because I know I'll be attacked for it, and that will be used against me and weaponized against me. But I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to say a sincere apology. I'm happy to declare that. But that's not really what I try to aspire to do by doing my videos and speaking to you. So at this point, we have a criticism now has become, we've gone from still they're winning off the personal attacks and they're winning off the ums and ahs in my presentation, and they're trying to make it more diplomatic and more constructive. Laura, I really, support your truth, and I really support your intentions and what you try to put out there, but I just can't watch any of your videos. it's the presentation for me. I just don't. You need to give me more jazz hands. You need to give me more editing. You need to give me an artificial, inauthentic presentation that I'm going to enjoy and find entertainment value from, because that's all I'm here for. And I'm going to tell you that that's wrong, that you talking and giving me valuable information because of the way you're presenting it, I'm going to tell you that's wrong, and that I'm not going to listen to you or watch you because it's too hard. Or I'm going to tell you that because of the way you present and the way you convey your messaging, that I can't comprehend anything, and that you just go off one rant to another, that you're just nonsensical, Laura, and you're completely mentally unstable. They're linking it back without saying I'm mentally unstable, they're linking it back to what they've already founded prior, with all the smearing and everything else. So it's like, at this point, my intent now is justified. My information is true, but now it's just the presentation that's the issue. So they've changed a lot of tactics. They don't need to be so aggressive, because they have my Twitter account and my YouTube account completely censored. The way I work around these sorts of censorship tactics is, if you can see here, I intentionally confront people. And I know that's been the way they've tried to attack me and try to carry a motive of what I do. But the only way to dispel everything is to actually confront them. For example, me confronting our recollections may vary, when she decided to come on here and respond to, I included her with her handle in a post and confronted her again. And people, of course, try to censor me by saying, "Oh, Laura, too much drama, Laura. You just stalk these accounts. You're going to get what's coming." I've also had threats of, legal lawsuits and stuff, and cases. What are those ones? Those, the big ones. Class lawsuits. People have threatened me with that, and then the comments of that one comment has 12 likes compared to everyone else who's got 1 or 2, and there's been a lot of threats and a lot of attacks that I have drama because I'm confronting someone who's literally trying to censor me for so long and moderate my channels, and then calling it natural and genuine. So when she responded, she then just exposed herself to conducting a hate campaign after she's done all of that smearing and exposed this narrative and this agenda of the censorship complex, and trying to implicate me in this censorship complex narrative of this Trump campaign that the Royal Grift has been instructed to create and to present. When she responded and she exposed herself to a hate campaign that she had done, and had encouraged all of these accounts to come on my channel and to completely to tear me down. So when that happened, it exposed her for what she is, and she hasn't come back to me since. She threatened me with a video, with doing a video, but she hasn't been able to pick herself back up from that. Every time, the Royal Grift just doesn't communicate with me anymore. The new censorship is just pretending I don't exist. That's been going on since the censorship started with Twitter, the real aggressive censorship in March. Now, and with that account that told me, I can steal your content, you're nothing, pretty much. There was obviously a decision made where, don't worry, let's pretend she doesn't exist. Let's create more accounts within this community. Let's pretend like they're really big and that they're, giving you the truth, or not even giving you the truth, but like they made this whole content about this narrative a lot more trivial, a lot more stupid. They've completely stupidified this whole narrative. But then you've got these like particular accounts that are controlled, that are giving you the truth and the serious truth and are the best researchers there are. And then you have these other accounts that are all supportive of this fake community, that only attach handles when they're like, oh my God, you're right. Oh, this is true. Oh, groundbreaking, this stuff, this information, this content. And they'll tag all of these, the only major controlled opposition accounts there are now, and pretend like I never existed, like this never happened, and they've recreated the whole Megxit community environment. So that's another part of this censorship stuff. And the reason why I'm telling you this stuff is because you've got to understand that there are multiple games at play, and there are different ways that you're attacked. They can, when they're silent and they don't answer you, it's because they can't answer you. They don't have an explanation, or they want to only be validated for what they're trying to brainwash you with. If they're researchers, then they should and need to answer you, not YouTube presenters. If they're researchers, because they're trying to give you the truth, right? They should be able to explain and justify and defend themselves, or defend their logic, their theory with proof. The first thing you should ask yourself is if they're giving you proof, or if they're giving you some word salad, just like Rome or the censorship complex and stuff, without the proof, without real proof. And then you can confront them with it and ask them questions. You can say, well, where's your proof? I need your proof to understand this. I don't know how you've come to this conclusion. Or you can literally say to them, no, or yes, I understand your half-truth that you're giving me, but this coincides with this part of history, or this part of the narrative, and so irrespective of what you're saying to me, this is what's actually taken place. And then they have nothing to really respond to with that. Or you literally, like with the comments that are being made where they personally attack you, or they try to say it constructively, you can see in my most recent videos, I've actually just asked for proof. Because there's a lot of blurring of the lines. There's a lot of, Laura, I don't think you're understanding things. I don't think you're comprehending, because you're just so, like, I'm the one who's been doing the research and giving you information. I'm the one who's that aware, and yet I'm ignorant to a very, very basic, simple understanding that everyone else was learning things with me, that everyone was already talking about things that I provided groundbreaking evidence for. That's not true whatsoever. I was there. Where's your proof? That's really what you say. If somebody wants to kind of come out after you like that and blur those lines and say, yeah, what you're not understanding is this, Laura, because you're just a very simple person. And that should already be a red flag when they're trying to narrate publicly to your following or to the public who you are and your intentions or your unawareness, without asking you, have you considered this, or giving that evidence to say, no, that this is actually what has happened. Maybe you weren't aware of it at the time, or were you aware of it at the time? having some sort of understanding rather than forming a judgment dressed up as constructive criticism or feedback or a conversation that I'm not a part of, that they're pretending that we're having in a very diplomatic way. There's a blurring of those lines intentionally to go after you, but make it look friendly, a friendly chat, and that they're just bearing witness to your blatant ignorance, you know? And then you just simply ask, where's your evidence? And you know what? You could easily just, well, for me, I can easily delete those comments because it's my channel. I can easily delete them and not have to deal with that burden of knowing that I'm going to have about 5 people like that bloody comment, because you have people moderating, people wanting to discredit me in any way they can. And so you have these minions that come on here, and any negative comment against me will like it. Or it's people that, I don't even know if they're actual genuine followings. I just don't think so. I don't think so whatsoever. Because if you're following me and if you're watching my stuff and then you're disliking, liking a negative comment about me, well, why are you watching me? You've got, too much time on your hands? Like, why are you saying that you only watch one video of me and you're here on your, 400th? It's just stupid. So I think, being assertive, but also knowing, once you have certain knowledge and information, you are standing up for it. Like, you're not going to just accept something that you're being told because they're saying it as a closed statement. Or you're not going to accept a judgment of you because it looks constructive. You're not going to accept a smearing of you because it looks diplomatic. There are new tactics at play, and I think we have to be really mindful of that. And unfortunately, you can just switch off and not have this online platform, or not talk on this platform, and you won't have to be bothered by this, which a lot of smart people have done. If I didn't have to make content, I wouldn't be, and having to prove myself or justify what I say and do, I wouldn't be so exhausted by this and having to tell you all about this bloody censorship shit, right? But I have made myself responsible by being in that position. You can also always include the handles of these accounts whenever you're responding. Make sure that they get that you address them directly, because then, well, if it's relevant, of course, and appropriate, because then if they don't respond, then they've got nothing to say. For example, I'm directly adding the handle of the royal monarchy in almost everything I do these days, because what are they going to say? What, they don't know? They don't know that their corruption and their deceit and their deception and their failing of a PR narrative and their branding? They don't know. So there's certain things that you can do to just be a little more assertive, a little more in control of the way you're attacked, censored and smeared on this artificial world, in this artificial digital world. But I want you to know that these are all these different tactics and maneuvers. If you have any that I haven't mentioned, please, by all means, add them in the comment section, or if you have any questions, ask me. I probably haven't been as fluid as I've wanted to be with how I've presented this chronology, and I've probably missed out a few things. If you have any questions about that, you can ask me. But I think at this point, I want to tell you that you can be at peace and you can feel okay with yourself being in this artificial online system. It does take time. It takes learning a lot of information, but it takes a lot of asking questions, and just don't limit yourself to reading certain books and the knowledge that you'll have ask the right questions, and be aware of the garden path that you might be being led down. Notice patterns, notice red flags. Just try to be as aware as possible. But if you aren't, why don't you just ask some questions to them directly? And it's all about their behavior and how they respond. If they cannot respond to you, or if they treat you poorly, then that's something that you can really note down and go, okay, I don't think this is a genuine account. I don't think this is a genuine agenda or intent. Now I'm going to question their intent. And you can do it quietly. You don't have to do it aggressively or assertively, but you can do it in a way that makes you feel a lot more at peace. And there's ways you can go about taking that control back, of being absolutely spoon-fed so many psyops and so much crap, along with being attacked and censored. I really now feel at this point, after my video about that whole censorship complex narrative, as this greater, larger intent to close this psyop, this Meghan Markle Harry narrative, and the way it's been played out to also align with the political campaign, I now feel really at peace with how I've always stayed true to myself. I've been consistent, and I no longer have that confusion and frustration anymore, because I've found the answers myself to this person who then attacked me for asking those questions. And then I can now understand why they have. I can understand why certain accounts now can no longer, after their little vomit of information, of theory, of history, can't explain anything else, can't justify anything else. Some are genuine, but then when you have those very accounts try to generalize or generalize your work and generalize your channel and team it up with other accounts you've never heard of, or works that you've never heard of and you don't know how credible, whatever. When people try to generalize your work or discredit your work in a diplomatic, constructive way, then you need to then be questioning their motive and their intent as not genuine. And then if they don't grow from a discussion you're having or that you've asserted and corrected for them, and they don't change their line of view, they don't change how they then protest certain theories and insert their certain ideas, then you really need to just completely understand and come to terms with this is not a genuine account. As much as like everyone that I've asked for proof of, everyone I've asked regarding their content for proof of, or that I've then said, no, you're wrong, this is butt fuck stupid, that they've then not corrected it, and they've then continued to go down these lines of just complete deception and manipulation and stupidity, then you have to draw those conclusions yourself that these are not genuine accounts. And sometimes you won't be able to draw those conclusions yourself with like random people, possibly people just commenting and giving you responses and reactions and judgments of your post or your content, and making it personal. But the personal attack or the personal criticism and the way they say it, and how they say it as a closed statement, should be enough for you to understand that it may not be genuine and it may not be honest, and you can just simply say, you can provide proof, or I don't believe you. As simple as that. You can shut somebody down if they're just going to go by an opinion and an interpretation and class it as a definitive closed statement and try to brand and label your content and yourself as such. as whatever they deem you as. I think that's the whole point of this. This is meant to be a short video. It was meant to be so short, and I think I really wanted to reflect, because I think as well with how I'm feeling with ScoMo being honoured by the king, it's just been so like to the core, just so upsetting. It shouldn't be, but it just is, because you just feel so unprotected, by your own country, by your own system. It's just really hard, to accept and to move on. Just naturally as a person, as a human being, thinking that you've got a system there, in place to defend your country, to defend your livelihood and your existence. This reflection has really helped me just talk and be open about what I've experienced. Now that I'm at peace with it all, like really, really at peace with it all, and I don't have really any fear. I still have fears initially, when I publish things, because I'm just waiting for retaliation, because that's how bad the censorship and the smearing and the attacks have been. But now a lot more at peace with the agenda, the motive and the intent, and how I see all of it as all of these change of tactics under this one big umbrella of a defense system of the monarchy. So it's been a journey, and I think it's really appropriate right now to just share that with you, because I'm sure you're going through your own journey being on here. Having to see what you see, having to witness people just being really fucked up, and just there to validate. Like, there are some people that are just not normal people. There are some people on here that are just not healthy, that need help. And I'm being very, very serious and genuine and sincere. There are a lot of people on here that need help. And are narcissists themselves, and are just very, very abusive. That's my own opinion, of course, but there's a lot of people that are very abusive, very scary, toxic, and definitely need help personally. So there are people like that as well that are actually genuine, but just are here to validate themselves, that are stuck in their own lives, unhappy in their own lives, miserable, and come on here to feel good about themselves, feel good about their delusions of life, their complacency, their compromise, and then try to feed that on you, try to validate their own choices. And that's even put out there by accounts that are just having a reflection like mine, I don't personally agree with those opinions or that sort of feeding of opinion, because it gives people a context. Like, let's make that choice of not being proactive or not being actually engaged in our lives because we have no answers for this, or we have no way of stopping it. Let's not look into that. Let's just be, I'm just happy, and I just simplify my life, and I just choose to ignore all of it. And I think that ties into, in a way, culturally stopping people from critically thinking and going beyond what they know, which is fine. That's definitely a choice, but don't encourage and enable it all the same, because because you're just going to be spoon-fed whatever you want, and you're going to choose that and then justify nonsense, and you posting nonsense, and you steering narratives. So it's like you're aiding and abetting this whole controlled system, this system that controls people from actual independent critical thought. So there's that as well. I know I am reflecting and ranting, so. But I think it's just really important to have these reflections and to understand it all, you know? Understand everything that's happened to... For me, it's really important for me to understand everything that's happened to me. And I feel finally at peace to tell you about it. Like, I've been so afraid. I've been so afraid to talk about even these COVID psyops with you because... And I've even limited my discussions because it's gone from... In Australia, it's gone from the data being hidden about COVID deaths to deaths that may not be related to COVID being published as, well, left open as COVID deaths or being classified as COVID deaths. And I don't know what's true and what's not, but most of all, that's not really the point. The point is, I was extremely afraid because of what was happening and understanding that there was this larger system that was monitoring me, censoring me, and not understanding it, but knowing it was very, very large. And there was no one that I could trust or seek comfort in when I tried. And I definitely did have DMs at the time with accounts that I thought were genuine, that I know now were a part of the system and controlled op, even in America. And I was open with them personally about even what I experienced during that time, during 2020 and 2021, that I was very afraid that it was going to be weaponized against me and weaponized against my family and my friends. And I was really scared that I was going to be targeted. And then I was going to be another case, and there's just that open possibility because they've made it so. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's real, but the psyop is so strong that you don't know what's true and what's false. All I have seen is that there are people in Australia dying and them leaving it open for us to presume that it's COVID, but it also justifies a death, any death, if you know what I mean. So there could be evasion of liability for certain deaths and reasoning and logic and questioning into these deaths and investigations into these deaths because simply they had a heart issue at 20-something years old, you know? And people now just link it to COVID. And I just didn't want to have those open discussions with you because I was really afraid at the time. And I'm sure this was the intent, but I was really afraid at the time of what they could possibly do to me. That would then make it look like it was a part of this agenda, because I had already been a victim, as any Australian was, during that tyranny. I had already been an unwilling victim of that whole 2020 event, and that was enough for me to kind of like be a little more aware and cautious of my surroundings, you know? And then all of this happened. All of this unnatural, scary stuff happened that I was just completely naive about, and I had to learn. But I was exposed to, and this is a global system. This is like, you know, I'm talking about Canada. I'm talking about France. I'm talking about Britain. I'm talking about Australia. I'm talking about, was it Serbia or Sweden? I'm talking, like, these are all these different people and companies and organizations that I've reached out to, right, that haven't got back to me. So this is a global system, and Germany and did I say US? All these different people, and so all of these people have records of these attempts of contacting, and I just didn't know what the hell was in store for me. It was a really, really scary time, and it's nice to be at peace with being over that rainbow and taking back that power, being an actual genuine channel on here. But that I want in the hope of me sharing my journey, that I'm able to maybe help you out in this really inauthentic, artificial online world, and the supposed people that you're talking to. I think I've gone from a really naive person, hopeful and just believing the world of Popcorn Planet and Body Language Guy initially, and the Royal Grift. I believed all of that. I've gone from that to being very assertive, being really assertive, not being so emotional about things, if I can help it, being a lot more regulated, a lot more taking back the control, a lot more aware, dare I say enlightened. I know that's coding, but it's definitely not for me, but definitely I'm more enlightened. I've come through the other end to be able to just say, well, provide proof or don't, or just kind of really understand, just even in my own way without saying it, I know that you are a controlled account. I know that this isn't real. And I know now that I'm in the right, that I have all the research I've done is correct, and I can push away this psyop that's happening, that is trying to infiltrate my thoughts and my understanding of the situation. So I think that's a really cool feeling to have, and I just hope that I can help you in some way in this crazy ass place. Anyway, thanks so much for your time. I'm so sorry that it's so long, but it's been nice to just have a chat after, getting so emotionally upset with that treasonous prick, both ScoMo and King Charles, along with Prince William's ocean crap. And what else was there? No, that's about it. Thanks, guys.